My grandma's dead siblings. My grandma, who passed away about 2 years ago, had two separate experiences about 5 years apart. First, she said she was in the kitchen late one night and she looked out the sliding glass door and saw her family on the porch. They were glowing. Their eyes were black. And then they were just gone. Second time she woke up and her dead brothers and sisters were standing over her bed, just staring at her, all white, glowing black eyes, then they were gone again. I don't think this was black-eyed kids or anything like that, nor were all her experiences terrifying. After she died, I found her journal, and it had a page where she was talking about a dream she had. The dream wasn't important. What was important is that she finished the entry by saying that she woke up from the dream, and my dead grandfather was sitting on the corner, smiling at her. Disturbing black-eyed girl experience. I am an atheist, and I've always been skeptical of the paranormal. Aside from being the most disturbing thing I have experienced, this encounter has turned my model of reality upside down. I was on the bus with my friend Veronica at around midnight. One of us mentioned that I was headed to Waterfront. She made a joke about how we shouldn't talk about where I was going on the bus because I would get stalked. I laughed and joked about that a little too, but I felt slightly uneasy. This is where I believe the experience began. I remember there was barely anyone on the bus. I saw 4 men chatting in front of us. Not that it is important for the accuracy's sake. 2 men were talking to each other, and a short distance away, another 2 men were chatting as well. At the time that I am writing this, a few hours after it happened, I don't remember seeing anyone else in the bus. I got off the bus and Veronica walked me to the Sky train station. I remember paying for my ticket and calling her as soon as I paid to jokingly complain about the fact that they had raised transit fare by 5 cents. We chatted for a bit. I went down the stairs to the platform for the Sky train to Waterfront, and a girl was sitting about 15 feet away from me. I immediately recognized her from the bus. Though thinking back, I can't recall actually seeing her on the bus. I don't know how she got from the bus stop to the Sky train station without me seeing her on the way, but I didn't think to question that at this point in the story. From what I can remember, she looked about 9 to 15. Keep in mind, it was past midnight and she was alone. She was small and slim, and her hair was cut into a perfect gray bob. It looked more like a shiny, hard gray helmet than hair, actually. If it wasn't a helmet, it must have been a wig. I don't remember anything about her facial features or clothing, despite the fact that I only saw her a couple hours ago and at one point in the story, stared at her intently for 15 minutes. I do remember she had an alternative sense of style, and I think she was wearing either a leather or denim jacket. I stayed 15 feet away from the bench that she was sitting on. Something about her was disconcerting, and made me mildly uncomfortable as well. Now, when the Sky train came, instead of walking through the doors of the Sky train compartment straight in front of her, she walked the 15 feet to get into the same compartment as me. I remember feeling a little weird about it though. I didn't look at her while I was on the Sky train at all. This is where it gets fucking weird. After the Sky train pulled into Waterfront Station, I got off of it, get onto the C bus. When the Sky train arrived, the C bus was leaving in 20 seconds, so I ran to catch it. Only one other person was running to catch it with me. When I sat down, the fucking girl with gray hair was sitting a few rows across from me, staring straight at me. I immediately recognized her. I don't know how the fuck she got to the C bus from the Sky train station within 20 seconds before me, without me even seeing her. As soon as I saw her, I went from relieved that I made it onto the C bus to being on the verge of tears. This is the part that makes me cry when I think about it. Her eyes were completely black. Her facial expression was inhumanely blank like a robot, and she was staring straight at me. I'm not exaggerating when I say that it wasn't human. It was so fucking wrong and unnatural. I've never seen or experienced anything like that in my whole entire life. All of a sudden, its face stretched into the most horrific evil smile. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. I cry every time I think about it. I was holding back tears at this point. How the fuck did it get from the Sky train to the C bus without me seeing it? The C bus takes 15 minutes to get to the other side of the water, so I watched it for 15 minutes. I could not have hallucinated being there for 15 minutes straight. It was physically impossible for it to get from the same SkyTrain as me to the C-bus without me noticing it at all. I may have hallucinated the eyes and the smile, but I don't think it's possible that I hallucinated them for like 15 minutes straight. But I could not have imagined her sitting there on the C-bus for 15 minutes. When the C-bus pulled in, I waited to get off at last and didn't see her on my walk home, though I was beyond terrified for the entire walk. The more I try to remember its physical appearance, the more hazy it gets. All I really remember is the helmet-like gray hair, pale skin, black eyes, and the blank stare morphing into the most disturbing smile in which I've ever seen. I remember I was dressed in alternative clothes, similar to mine. And what's creepier is that my hair is gray too, almost like it was somehow, in some way mimicking my very appearance for me to see, like a mirror. But it totally lacked the thing that makes humans human. It even lacked the thing that makes animals seem alive. It was unnatural. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. This is really scary to me because if this was real, what else is real? And why was it following me like that? What in the world? What did it want? Edit. This experience has greatly worsened my insomnia. I'm terrified that it will kill me in my sleep. If anyone reading this has experienced anything paranormal, an encouraging comment would be greatly appreciated, as this incident has also worsened my anxiety as well. Black-eyed white creature. Hey guys, I've been reading a lot of posts on here and want your opinion on something I saw a few years back. Some history on the house and me to have a little more accurate idea of what it could be. I have always been sensitive to spirits and energy since I was little. My childhood home is across the road from an old graveyard. I took a picture there on a calm summer night, and when I look back on it, the picture, it looked like it was snowing, with all the orbs and stuff like that, and built in an old settlement that is no longer there. It was built during the gold rush. Okay, so now to the story. I was at home by myself playing on my computer, playing video games in the middle of the day, and I left my room to grab some food from the kitchen. All three of my dogs were sleeping outside on the deck because it was nice outside. I kept feeling like I was being watched and seeing something with white hair and black eyes peek around corners at me. But when I looked at it, the thing would duck back behind the corner. I was not in a good mood after having a very bad fight with my ex-boyfriend, so I just ignored it at the time. About 30 minutes later, I went to the bathroom, and when I left, I was standing face to face with this thing. It was the same height as me, 5'7", with pitch black eyes, short pure white hair covering its whole body, small black nose, with glossy black claws for hands, and goat-like back legs with gloven hooves. It stood up on its back legs like a human and just stared at me as I looked it in the eyes. I was emotionally numb due to the breakup, and I just stepped around it without a care or second thought and went back to my room. I did not see it again or anything like that. Remembering this now gives me chills, and I've always wondered what it was that I saw that day. Has anyone had an experience like this, or know what it could have been? Lost Road. I'm gonna start off by saying I'm typing on my iPhone, so it might be a little messy. But let's get to it. Me and my friend were heading home from a friend of ours in a nearby town or village, I should say, because I live in a really remote location. It is at least 35 miles from my house, and there are a lot of alternative roads to use. The best roads are the longest, so we figured we could check the GPS to see if there was a quicker route, and we saw an alternative road to decide to use, which all to our surprise we never heard of, because both of us have a very good knowledge of this part of the county. But we start to drive, and the first part we're on the road we knew well, But as we see on the GPS earlier, the left turn into the unknown was coming ahead. We took the left turn onto a gravel road with no signs on it, and it was heading right into the forest. And we drove for a few miles where suddenly asphalt appears in the middle of a timber truck-like road, and thick smog was building up outside, so I was fighting to see the road, and it was getting really cold in the car, which is normally that the temperature can drop to around plus or minus 0 Celsius during the summer where I live. And I can also add that the sun barely sets, so it's like dawn at night, so it never ever gets dark outside, really. But back to what happened. So I cranked up the heat to max in my old Volvo 240, which is a real sauna, but strangely, it blew cold air, so I figured the thermostat went bust. And we kept on driving longer into the woods, and then out of nowhere, a lady all dressed in white was standing by the side of the road. She was holding an old washboard and looked me right into the eyes, what looked like black eyes. Or very dirty around the area around the eyes. I remember specifically her long white dress and the horror that struck me right away. I wanted to drive 120 miles per hour, but I couldn't drive faster than maybe 20 because of all the fog. So it felt like we drove for hours and hours on end, which I'm sure weren't more than 10 minutes. And then suddenly fog is clearing up, and we're at a crossroad near a village close to mine. Because of the panic, I couldn't memorize everything properly, and then I drove to my friend's house safe, dropped him off, and got home. But today, we were trying to find this road again to show a couple friends who didn't believe us. But it is nowhere to be found. We even drove the same village at the exact same location where we dialed in the GPS, but it did not show that lost road as an alternative. I am so confused. Has anyone else heard of anything similar to this? Open to alternatives.